Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As indicated in my opening statement, the FSOC is currently considering subverting at least one lawful deliberative decision that the Security and Exchange Commission is in the process of making regarding rulemaking and money market funds. So my question is to you, Mr. Garrity. I would ask that any of the panelists consider responding if you agree or disagree. Mr. Garrity, do you believe that an FSOC designation of money market funds for enhanced Fed supervision is an appropriate and adequate alternative to the SEC changing the rules that apply to these funds?
Congressman, I think that you raise an important issue which the Council has discussed on a number of occasions and in its annual report, which is the question of further reforms to address structural vulnerabilities in money market funds. I think the points that you make are important for the following reason. One, and the Council has recognized this repeatedly, the SEC has clear statutory and regulatory authority to address money market funds. And the second thing that I think I would highlight in the Council's actions is that the Council has worked very closely with SEC staff and SEC Chairman Shapiro and now Chairman Walter on the consideration of these reforms. Moreover, what the Council did last fall was not an action that would subvert the process of the SEC, but rather encourage a public dialogue on the reforms that the SEC is considering and has considered. We thought that by putting forward public recommendations consistent with Section 120 of the Dodd-Frank Act about an issue that is not just that relates specifically to money market funds from a regulatory perspective, but could have broader impacts on the financial system, we were able to get public comment, public input, and also create a more public dialogue about these reforms under consideration. Obviously, the first choice is for the SEC to take action. That's something the Council has made clear.
The SEC process at this point, would you call it deliberative, the process that agency is engaged in?
So as I understand from the conversations with SEC staff and with the Chairman Walter and Chairman Shapiro, that they are engaged in a collaborative and a deliberative process within the SEC.
Certainly it's lawful, correct?
That's my understanding.
They're engaged in, and it's currently in process, isn't that right?
That's correct.
So is it appropriate to recommend that an agency take a particular action under Section 120 of Dodd-Frank in cases where the agency is still considering the matter and it's still in deliberation?
So under the authority in Dodd-Frank, the recommendation authority under Section 120 authorizes the Council to make recommendations to an agency when it feels that there's an issue that could pose a threat to financial stability. The proposed recommendation that the Council put out is precisely to make a proposed recommendation and to engage in a public dialogue and get public comment on that issue of concern.
Does the FSOC have greater expertise in an area regarding SEC's deliberation more so than the latter agency?
So, Congressman, as I mentioned earlier, the Council staff, both at the Treasury and in other member agencies, worked closely with SEC staff and with Chairman Shapiro to have the benefit of their expertise. But this issue, while directly related to a particular matter of money market funds, also has broader implications for short-term funding markets and the stability of the financial system.
I have nothing further. I yield back.
If the gentleman will yield.